Just acknowledge it, knowledge with no scholarships. It's Topic Thunder, it's Topic Thunder. Breaking everything down, tech to politics. It's Topic Thunder, it's Topic Thunder. We don't tell you what you want, we just give you what you need. It's Topic Thunder, it's Topic Thunder. News, brews, and views from these Chi-Town streets. Topic Thunder.
Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Topic Thunder, I think number 46, but who's counting at this point? Yeah, it's streaming to you live on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch. My name is Brooks. That's Ben. Again, this is Topic Thunder or Topic Thunder Podcast. If you're looking for us on Instagram, we're out there and we're still moving. We're still moving, but slowly. The plans are being made, but or I could just be blowing smoke at you. I don't know. It's the top of the show.
You never really know what's happening.
You never, and that's the mystery of Topic Thunder here on Monday Thunder.
Special Monday Thunder.
Right, I see Courtney's with us, and thanks for joining us, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a good show, an interesting show as I was putting it together, and it's Columbus Day, so I think we have a special video also later on.
Indeed.
That Ben will delight us with. But thanks for showing up and joining us on the show. If you're new, if you're not, we always like to have you kind of step up to the bar at the internet saloon that is Topic Thunder over here, and
a little bit of Pappy's old cough syrup.
Just don't look at the ingredients, because you'll see things like codeine and cocaine and all kinds of like caffeine, like enough to keep a bull alive, awake. All those weird. Yeah. Anyways, speaking of elixirs, this is an elixir. This is from my favorite, Three Floyds Brewery, way out in Munster, Indiana, or maybe not way out, but this is Munster Fest, and it is their Oktoberfest offering. It is a seasonal brew. It is like probably the best brewery on all of Earth, says humble me. But I don't believe I've ever had this particular product before, so I'm pretty excited. And we're gonna give it an official go. Now, don't shame me because I don't have the prototypical IPA glass here. I don't want any heat from the craft beer community. Lord knows.
Is that a thing that you can get heat from?
It's always a thing, right? Everybody's got a group that are just like, you don't have the right glass, or you don't have the right pipe, or you don't have
in any niche, right? And anything that's cool in whatever small pocket of people that really take that thing seriously, you always find that, right? Like there's always the music. I remember in high school, there always used to be that person that was into music, but they once a band became popular, they no longer like that band because it's not cool to like them once they're popular, like the Green Day or something, for instance.
Okay, so great. Okay, cool. Let's you listened to Rancid before anybody else, right? And then you can if you really support the band. By the way, this beer is delicious, and if you're looking for a good Oktoberfest beer, holy shit, this is good. Mm-hmm. Cheers to everybody. This is a delightful beer. I'm not blowing smoke. That's just check it out, Biz. I see it's not angry. It's an Oktoberfest, unless you're saying the Germans are angry, Chris.
Yeah, but I guess if Munster,
what are you trying to say?
Munsterfest is a very aggressive sounding name, so I can see that.
But it's Munster, Indiana. See how that's the play. That's where they are.
I like Munster cheese myself. I'm a big fan. My favorite kind of cheese. If we're taking that poll.
Really quick, lightning Topic Thunder poll out there, ladies and gentlemen. Favorite
cheese?
Let's go with cheese slice.
Okay, a slice of cheese. What would be the best slice? Mine is from HEB. It is jalapeno Munster cheese. It is amazing.
All right.
Where's my submission?
If I had to put something on a sandwich, and I'm thinking if I had to pick the sandwich, I would probably pick something that I could melt some Havarti cheese on. Havarti cheese on some good roast beef. Just put that in a toaster oven, and you got yourself a Saturday afternoon, friends.
Angela chiming in with classic Swiss. I'm a big fan of Swiss myself. I could eat a slice of Swiss I could just eat the slices of cheese themselves. I'm that big of a fan of Swiss to myself either.
So keep
Blue
chiming
cheese
in.
is not the only thing I won't eat.
Another Swiss. Okay. Big feta. Okay. Now, yeah. Okay. Colby Jack. Colby Jack. That's
Can't go wrong with Colby Jack.
what a utility cheese. Like you could do anything with that.
You could really put Colby Jack on anything, literally anything. I think now that I'm thinking about it, I don't know that there's any sandwich that you could ruin by putting a slice of Colby Jack cheese on it.
Yeah. I mean, that would. I mean, it'd be hard not to do the Swiss on a corned beef. Like if you came with me with like a corned beef and you put cheddar on it, I'm gonna smear it in your face.
Yeah,
that's how much you've insulted me and my family.
Or like a pastrami with cheddar. Like no. No.
Yeah, we got some American cheese on that. No, you've missed the point entirely.
You missed the point entirely.
But hey, yeah, seriously, back to the beer. We're check out that beer. No, let's do it. We're gonna go right to the headlines. We have a lot of headlines. We have a lot of weird headlines. So some of these might be things we're gonna park on. Some of them they might not. But this is Topic Thunder fishing. It's a fishing trip here. Nice. Grilled cheese.
Grilled cheese. Colby Jack grilled cheese on rye sounds amazing.
I think we started something here. We need to do a tournament of cheese or something like that.
Oh, or a sandwich tournament. Like the Punchable Face tournament, but sandwiches. What is the ultimate sandwich? And does hot dog qualify? Is hot dog a sandwich?
That's a different debate. And that's like then we'd have to have the pre-trial to like the debate. All right, is a hot dog a sandwich? Just to allow it as a contestant. And
right, that could be a heated debate because there are strong opinions on both sides of that.
How do we feel about a gyro?
To me, that's a sandwich. I think a hot dog's a sandwich too. So but yeah, see, Biz agrees. Tournament of sandwiches would be great. So I think now we've found our new thing. Our next tournament has to be tournament of great sandwiches. And what is the ultimate sandwich?
Yeah, and I think we'd have to be general about it. You can't say, hey, it's the my favorite sandwich is the my cardiologist needs a new car over at JB Deli's, right. Which I've actually had, which is a legitimate place.
Everybody else, a peanut butter and jelly, for instance,
grilled cheese,
corned beef and Swiss. Whatever.
The traditionals.
A club sandwich, whatever.
Ooh.
See, a good club sandwich with bacon and mayonnaise and turkey, good turkey, not the hand-cut turkey.
Yes, like actual turkey, and like a really good tomato.
Yes. Also a good Jersey Mike's has a very good club sandwich for fast food sandwiches.
All right, we have a
the President Park cheese cheddar. Have to try it. Goes on almost anything. Okay, if you can, where do you get such a thing? Is there a store that you get it at, or is it at any grocery store? Should I be able to find President Pub cheese? If you can, Nick, give me a heads up on that.
And is it like a spreadable cheese? Are we talking like a cheese log? Or are we talking about like
we have gone down a rabbit hole, sir.
Oh yeah, did they loaf the cheese?
Oh shit!
Hey, so there's actually news, and some of it is actually kind of important. So let's kick this off with talking about an important group of people that have been put to the test during the pandemic here and forced to do things that they never would have thought they'd have to do ever in their lives, and had to reimagine their entire career and field and how they do their jobs. I'm talking about teachers. This is from The Guardian. Exhausted and underpaid, teachers across the United States are leaving their jobs in numbers.
Mm-hmm.
There have been more than 200,000 reported weekly cases among children in the past 5 consecutive weeks in the U.S., with most cases spreading in areas with no mask mandates. Imagine that. And places with low vaccination rates.
Imagine that.
And we all know that vaccines for children under 12 have not been yet approved.
Correct.
Several schools and school districts have periodically been forced to close in-person learning because of exposure and high infection rates, leaving teachers struggling to continue their lessons through the disruptions. A shortage of teachers in the United States was already a growing problem before the pandemic, particularly in high poverty schools. The shortage has worsened during the pandemic, and some schools have closed when too many teaching positions could not be filled, while others grapple with higher than normal teacher vacancies, leaving remaining teachers overworked. In Florida, teacher vacancies this year increased more than 67% with August of 2020. That is a 38.7% increase from a year prior.
Jesus.
Teachers leaving the field.
This is a big deal. Adrian just started teaching at a high school here in town. And Lubbock ISC before she had gotten the job that she's in now, she was substitute teaching, and they were desperate for substitute and still are desperate for substitute teachers because of the lack of teachers that they have available right now. It is a huge problem, and I've talked about it before. I believe that children have been the kind of super spreader of this thing all along. We kind of overlooked them as a possibility because it wasn't, kids weren't going into the hospital and dying of it at the beginning. So everybody thought, oh, it's not something that affects them. But I think that a lot of kids had it and were spreading it around, and they were kind of, because kids are gross. Most kids are gross. Like if you're under the age of 12, you're disgusting, generally speaking. And so I really do feel like, and I don't blame these teachers, man. Like there's so many outbreaks in these schools now. Like you're putting yourself in danger for what? To get yelled at by parents, or to have parents not give a shit about what their kids are doing in school, which is a growing epidemic as well, where parents just don't give a fuck about what's going on at school for their kid. Education in this country is a mess. We talked about it a few weeks ago. This is an experiment. We've been experimenting for about the last 100 years with mass education in this country. And I think it's about time we reimagine completely how we're educating children. But I don't know what the answer is, because virtual wasn't working because most kids weren't really learning, and weren't staying focused. But at the same time, we can't have them in schools because they're getting people sick and the teachers don't want to fucking be there. So what is the answer? I don't know, but we're at this like weird crossroads where we need to start rethinking what is going on with our education system in this country. We really do.
Oh, we're at a crossroads for a lot of essential, critical infrastructure fields. And I don't mean like bridges, and I mean like the support structures of society, like education, like the healthcare system. And let's just throw government in there too. Like we're at a critical juncture in all of this, right? Where we could make a, granted, difficult decision to, in a lot of ways, self-analyze, be very introspective on how we do things, and look forward to an outcome that doesn't just scream the same old tropes of, have a family, get a house, pay your taxes, retire, die. Maybe there is something more. We know there's something more. We can afford to do all these things, but it seems like that's the big scary thing that's been made, is like because it's just drastic change. Like somehow the current system's working.
Right. There's nothing about the current education system that we can say is definitively working, that we are the best at anything that has to do with education. And we're middle of the pack at best.
And I'm not just talking. The story does go on to state some statistics, like nearly 10% of teachers in Providence, Rhode Island, have quit or retired. 44% increase in mid-year teacher retirements this year in a school district in Michigan. And in Fort Worth, to start the school year, there were 314 vacant teacher jobs at the beginning of the school year. So if you're in the mindset of like, well, I send my kids to school, I go to work, and that's kind of blowing up and imploding on you, because if you don't want to change that, and maybe in what you seem is a radical way, but like there are people out there that have ideas, that have great, big, grandiose ideas about how to educate and what we could do to not only improve what exists, but expand and get everybody educated.
Yep.
And not just talking about like philosophy degrees and communication degrees. We're talking across the spectrum. We've heralded the use of community colleges here a lot too. Go get a welding certificate. You can go do a trade school. We're going to make it easy for you to do those things.
Mm-hmm.
That's the education we're talking about.
Another part of this is it speaks to a larger problem, which is pay, right? Attracting new people to this job of teacher, right? Like, what incentive have we given this next generation to want to go into the education field? We've got, when we're watching on television, we're watching these school board meetings with parents losing their goddamn minds over what children are being taught in schools, or what they're being told, or what they're being shown, or what they're being allowed to know about in schools, and whether or not they're wearing masks or not. Like, dealing with parents is a nightmare. No one wants it, and we're not paying these people enough to incentivize people that are on the fence. If you're not really passionate about educating kids, what incentive do you have to want to become a teacher? Explain to me why you would want to become a teacher.
Right. It's, you want special people to that feel that in their soul, to aspire to that, and then be rewarded for not only becoming that, but also staying in the field and making it lucrative for them. And not only lucrative for them, but to give them upward mobility. And if you just want to be a kindergarten teacher for your career, cool. But if you have ideas of moving on up the structure and becoming a principal or superintendent or whatever, there's not enough of that. Because I'll guarantee you there's at least one CPS teacher listening right now that will tell you that having business people making decisions in a CEO capacity for schools is about as good as having a businessman make decisions for patients in a hospital.
Right. Could you imagine? We wouldn't think of doing that. In a million years, we wouldn't think of doing that. We have to rethink everything. And I think it starts by dedicating more funds to paying teachers and attracting people that have that passion, but still have to make a living, right? You may have a passion to want to be a teacher, but then you look at it and you say, well, I'm only going to make $30,000 when I first enter the field. Can I pay my bills on that? Most people cannot. You cannot. You'd need a second job. So what is attracting people to want to become educators? Because it's important. It's like the most important job, really, when you break it down. It's like top 5 most important jobs in the country is educating children. It is how we are going to continue to exist as a human race, is by educating young people properly. And you know what I mean? It's a whole cyclical thing. So it's we're off to a tangent already. We're only one story in, but
it's an important tangent though, and the chat room is alive with it, because I think the important thing is that we just, if you're not an expert in the field or an expert in the knowledge base, you need to take a step back and let the trained experienced professionals maybe sort this out. Maybe. As opposed to showing up to your school board meeting and shouting and spitting and cursing and threatening people.
That's the craziest thing. That's the craziest shit I've seen lately, is this like not so vague threats of, you got a bunch of people that are ready to do something about it. And it's like, what the fuck are you going to do if we have a mask mandate? What are you really saying? Are you saying you're going to attack these school board members? Here's another part of this real quick before we move on, but something to kind of plant in your brain and let it marinate a little bit, is we already see that these weird Trump right-wingers, these real extreme right-wingers, are infiltrating school boards. Wait until they start infiltrating teaching. They're going to see the opportunity with the mass amounts. There's going to be a movement of far-right folks becoming teachers and teaching that far right conservative type of history or economics, or any of those things. I think there's another thing that you might see coming up is an infiltration of really far right ideas coming into the teaching world.
I'm sure, because we know that there's a slow game being played, right? and it started a long time ago, and it started with what we've talked about on the show with law enforcement, right?
Mhm.
Where the skinheads were told grow your hair out. We talked about that, right?
Yep.
Why wouldn't people be told, like, oh, you came to this chapter meeting of this certain club, like
Or you're
we
at
hear.
your local church.
Yep. Or
Right.
we hear you're soon graduating with an education degree. We like to make sure your transition from student life to professional life is a smooth one and you're compensated properly. So, well, listen up.
Right.
If you don't think it happens, that's your first mistake.
Yep.
Anyway, second, if you give money to people suspected of money laundering, you can also expect that money to
Probably be laundered. Yeah.
probably just disappear somewhere. Just ask Canada. From the Toronto Star, while Canada sent hundreds of millions of dollars in aid to Jordan, Jordan's king grew his collection of luxury homes.
This is the guy we were talking about last week, right? He was part of the not the Panama Papers. What's that?
Pandora.
The Pandora Papers. Yeah, this was like the big guy that was really taking advantage of it, right? If I remember correctly.
One of them, and more has again. When you were released that amount of data, that was released again. We went live 7-ish on that Sunday. Yeah, unfortunately, the story only goes so far, but there's enough in there we can talk about too. What was it? 3 terabytes of documents and everything drops, and we were just scratching the surface of it an hour after it happened. So a lot more has come out. There's been, Putin's got a mistress, I don't know, somewhere in Spain where she has this, like, there's some ridiculous stuff that is now like confirmed. Yeah, it's legitimately another big.
For sure, but this plays right into what we've been talking about a lot lately, which is very wealthy people and corporations buying up properties. This guy was doing luxury homes, but for the exact same reason. Those homes are also being priced out of this world. So they're very attractive investments for these guys.
So King Abdullah II bin Al Hussein acquired 14 properties abroad, worth more than 106 million US dollars, using some of his 36 shell companies based in secretive tax havens, a cache of newly leaked documents revealed. And then everything kind of goes white right there. So that's how they do it, right? And this money was coming from Canada to charities, which is a great way to launder money.
Sure.
Absolutely.
So let me. So Canada's sending aid to Jordan.
Yes.
Meanwhile, the king of Jordan is buying luxury homes.
And I unfortunately, I don't want to.
Amazing. That's amazing. And that's like what wealthy dudes do. They collect corporate welfare of some sort, and they turn around and they use that money to buy themselves things that will enrich themselves. It's classic. Right out of the fucking textbook.
And this situation, like when you have a dictator or like a one singular point of power, it becomes real easy for that guy to kind of like move some money around like that. It's a little more difficult when you're a democracy. Obviously, it happens, but it has to go different ways. But when you're like the ruler, like, oh, where's that? Hey, thanks, Canada. Hey, have you seen that place in Dubai?
Yeah, it's fucking badass. Yo.
Do it up. So just a follow-up, I guess, to that to our previous breaking news story last week, that this is the kind of stuff that we're talking about here. And it's not just foreign dignitaries and people off in a far land. It's happening to the people that we always talk about on the show, the Bezoses and the Elon Musks, that are doing this and not paying their fair share of taxes while using our labor, while using our infrastructure to amass this wealth. All we ask is like a 0.3% wealth tax on your space faring asses and we'll be cool. That's all, I guess. But moving on. Oh God, I have to accept the cookies from the mirror, and I just did, and I feel dirty.
I know. I had to do the same thing.
We like to give you a little taste of, just how far the tentacles of Russia have gone. This is an exclusive from the Mirror, so take that as you will. But a quarter of British Prime Minister Boris Johnson's cabinet took Russia-linked cash as the Tories head to conference. The Tories are like saying the Democrats or Republicans, and it's that kind of thing. But a quarter of his people were on the snide, taking money from
on the payroll. Interesting.
Again, through tycoons and benefactors, and let's see, donations. So it becomes again a situation where people were not reporting things on their income taxes and funneling money through shell companies. And I'm looking for the word charity from donors linked. I thought I had the word charity, but like, yeah.
This is tycoons and benefactors. They said tycoons and benefactors are hurling money at the conservatives at an astonishing rate as ordinary Brits face painful universal credit cuts, national insurance hikes, and soaring energy bills.
Just saying, folks, that we got a slight problem on our hands here.
Yeah, we do. Yeah, you've been way ahead of it on this, and every week another story comes out that just further confirms what you've been telling everybody on this show for 40 some odd episodes now, is that there is something going on with Russia, and we are slowly uncovering all the different tentacles, as you put it, that they have all over the place, all over the globe.
And it's not just Russia. We've just scratched the surface of China, and I'm still working on putting that weird sub stuff together too, because there was just another sub story in the news, and one of our nuclear subs, one of our fast attack, I believe, New Jersey class subs in the South Pacific Sea got hit by something, and they call these things USOs. Unidentified submerged object. So much so that this nuclear sub had to surface, thus giving away its position, in order to go for repairs. Nobody died, but I guess the sailors were. But something happened.
Something like that. Wow. Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah. I thought, because there were people making like it was, obviously that's, James Cameron's The Abyss, happening, because I guess the movie opened with that like same thing. Like,
oh shit, okay, I've never seen it. Sorry.
I've never seen it either. We're probably gonna get some pushback from the chat room about that one too. But yeah, that's what they do. Like, again, we're new kids on the block as far as like this game of world chess that's been going on for centuries before anybody knew who George Washington's parents were, to be honest with you, right? Yeah. And it spans the globe. Actually, we're going to talk about things spanning the globe in the big fantastic story that might explain why we have some of these differences between ourselves as one species of human beings, and maybe other species of human beings have something to do with it. Yeah. But hey, you're tuned in to one of the finest podcasts in all the land. Thank you very much. It's Topic Thunder, and you're doing so via the internet.
Mm-hmm.
And by doing so, you're probably paying too much for your internet access.
I guarantee you, I'm paying too much.
Here's a story from CNBC. People in the United States pay more for slower internet than European, Canadian, and Asian counterparts, according to Open Technology Institute. So not only do 7% of Americans just lack reliable broadband, which, think about that. Like, I know you're like 7%, Brooks. What? That's 7% of people who don't have reliable internet access for school, which might be important during a pandemic when things go remote. 7% of people lost out on an education or their library access, or just being a means to entertain themselves as they sat at home.
Yeah. This is one of those stories, man. Like, I have started to come around on this idea that the internet should be free. You should not have to pay for access to the internet.
I think it should be treated as a utility.
There you go. Or maybe as a utility then. But as one of those ones like where you like with the heat. Like, it was one of those ones that you can't have disconnected on there.
I think. Okay, so with this opens up a can of worms, because I'm going to start talking about things that are going to sound like quasi-nationalization of certain things. But yeah, to what you were saying, in an emergency situation, say when a power grid goes out because of an unheard of snowstorm in a land that never gets them, that somehow there's a backup plan provided by a nationally protected power grid.
Mhm.
I'm just saying, leaving these disparate companies and corporations who are fighting it out, and all they're beholden to are their shareholders. All I'm saying is, if we want everybody in the United States of America to have the same opportunities and have that equal footing, we kind of have to do something like make sure nobody can turn your electricity off, nobody can take your internet away, turn your water off, turn the heat off during the winter. Basic utilities may be free. I don't know. As opposed to cutting checks for everybody, maybe just
Wouldn't it be something that couldn't it be something that our tax dollars go towards? Right? You know what I mean? Like a free, free internet access for everyone, free power for everyone. Like, keep in mind, unless I've heard the story wrong, but I've always heard and I believe Nikola Tesla intended to give away energy, give away power. He wasn't going to charge for it. And even back then, everything in America is privatized. Everything is monetized. And why? Why is power not something that everyone is entitled to, no matter what? You're entitled to have power. You're entitled to have heat. You're entitled to have air conditioning when it's hot. You're entitled to have the internet. Yes, we should be entitled to those things, because there are things like you cannot function as a human being in 2021 without the internet.
Just so we know, just going to say the study from the Open Technology Institute found that the average price in the United States of monthly internet access is $68.38, which is higher than the average price of internet access for all of North America, Europe, and Asia. Ask yourself this: where's that money going? And also ask yourself, we already have paid for the existing broadband network. We've given government subsidies to all of these corporations to build these things and to build towers for our 5G and 4G all the way down, so they're taking it from we're kind of getting it from both ends here, folks.
Mm-hmm.
Not to be crude, but why are we paying in the front and then also paying in the rears?
Right.
You know what that is?
I would even say phone access is something like how could you function as a human being without a cell phone? Even if it's one of those old Nokia ones. I'm not saying everybody needs a smartphone, but you should have access to a cell phone provided by the government. And if you wanted to upgrade to a nicer one, you can. This privatization of utilities and things like pharmaceuticals is a huge problem, and it has shown itself at this point to be. But it's one of those things that you can't go back now. You can't change it. The time to do the right thing was 100 years ago plus, when things were just starting to come into fruition, and you had the choice to give everyone power like Nikola Tesla wanted, or charge people for power like Thomas Edison wanted. And
Tesla was doing it like over the air. Like if you Google a picture of like when the beginning of electricity and like the streets of New York or whatever, what they look like with all of the power lines and the disgusting, like, where you driving through the country and you're like, oh, this is a lovely landscape. Oh, look, power lines.
Mm-hmm.
He was going to do it through the air, and he did actually. He proved it. It's just that technology just kind of.
Was it internet companies? I remember there was a story that we did a couple months back where the original when it was something, I want to say it was the internet. We had an opportunity again to like allow it to be free to everyone, and we decided to privatize it. And then we decided we'd give these companies subsidies and give them exclusivity over certain areas of the country if they went and put in infrastructure for the internet. I believe it was the internet, or it was power. It was the power companies. That's what it was. It was the power companies. Back in the day when people were first settling here, and power companies were going. The American government gave them exclusivity rights over certain areas. That's what it still exists today. Like you have one choice for power in your area. Like all of you, anyone listening to this right now, you probably have maybe two choices, but very likely you have one choice for who you pay your energy bill to. It's crazy.
It's a free market, though, Ben.
Yeah, great.
It's already a cornered market, so why not just regulate the shit out of it and just make sure that like, yes, what Billy Wyack astutely points. If you're holding back just simple power and electricity to somebody, you're holding back all of humanity.
Yep.
It's a great one.
Yep.
Well, speaking of certain aspects of humanity, and our current probably issues with energy companies. This was revealed via The Guardian. Pipeline company paid Minnesota police for arresting and surveilling protesters.
Mm-hmm. What a fucking surprise.
The Canadian company Enbridge has reimbursed U.S. police $2.4 million for arresting and surveilling hundreds of demonstrators who opposed the construction of its Line 3 pipeline, according to documents The Guardian obtained through public record requests. Check this out. Enbridge has paid for officer training, police surveillance of demonstrators, officer wages, overtime, benefits, meals, hotels, and equipment. Ladies and gentlemen, what you just heard the description of is no longer a police force, but it is a privatized military force.
Yeah, it is.
Of officers of the law sworn to uphold the law and the duties thereof.
Well, this speaks to, again, the origins of law enforcement. And the origins of law enforcement are to protect the interests of the rich and powerful and businesses, right? That's what their job is to enforce the rules so that those entities feel comfortable. And this is just another aspect of it where they're just directly paying these entities to fuck with demonstrators and surveil them.
And it's so when people get really upset, and it's a big trigger issue when a lot of very fancy, famous stores on Michigan Avenue were on fire a year or so ago. People were like, when other than stores in lesser known communities were allowed to burn. The police were all over Michigan Avenue.
Mm-hmm. They made sure to protect that fucking statue.
They made sure to protect a lot of things, and of course, they didn't. They failed in a lot of ways, but like guarantee you, and it's still you go to Block Club or any of the local Chicago like independent online news sites. There's still a lot of litigation and stuff like that going on about how the police were deployed during those times of unrest, and it just keeps on carrying on.
No.
Speaking of asshats and people who probably caused a really big problem for the United States and probably citizens of a sane and healthy world, Alex Jones lost two more Sandy Hook lawsuits. If you're not familiar with what good Sir Alex Jones was up to via his InfoWars network, he was railing the idea over and over again that Sandy Hook didn't actually happen when I believe 13 children were shot and killed. I could be wrong with the number. Apologize for that. He says that they were all actors, that they're all crisis actors, that actually did not happen, and had stirred a certain pot in the deplorable section of the grocery store that is America.
Yeah.
To the point that people have been threatened. The families of victims have been threatened. So they just turned to him and they sued the shit out of him. And he's, I believe, now lost 13. No, I think it was 8. I'm sorry. I believe it was 8 total lawsuits, and he still has pending litigation. These are all civil cases.
This is,
So-
of course, the same lawsuit where he admitted in court that he's an act, basically. He's putting on a show. Like, that was part of his excuse. His defense was like, you can't believe me. I'm just saying shit for attention. Basically,
I believe it's the first time I heard the word infotainment.
yes.
I believe it was, and then Fox uses that all the time too.
I love a good conspiracy theory. Love them, and I love when they're plausible and there's real questions. For instance, 9/11 to me, like we talked about it a few weeks ago. There's a lot of unanswered questions that just don't make sense. That there's plausible deniability there. This one I could never get on board with. The idea that someone, I don't know who this entity is, but some entity was going to stage a school shooting and pay all these people to act as if their children were killed in a school shooting for no reason whatsoever. It'd be one thing if you could say, okay, based on Sandy Hook, we had strict gun laws put into place that confiscated guns from American citizens, and it led to the downfall of the Second Amendment. No, nothing changed after Sandy Hook. Little children died in a school shooting, and nothing fucking changed about how the way we looked at guns and how people had access to guns. Nothing. It didn't phase anything. But to get back on point here real quick, to say that everyone faked that and everyone was paid in this era of social media and media attention, to be able to mastermind and organize something of that magnitude and have nobody leak and give away the plot is impossible. It is not plausible. And so from the beginning, this whole thing of the Sandy Hook hoax, it was mind-boggling to me. Like, you're ruining the conspiracy theory community by allowing shit like this to not get shouted down by people that look at JFK or 9/11 or even the moon landing and think that there's some iffy stuff about it and there's some conspiracy to it. This was never ever made sense because there was no outcome from it that was beneficial to the anti-gun people. There was no reason for anyone to ever have staged a school shooting. It doesn't make sense. It never did.
I could see if there was just the sheer panic of the situation. It's like, okay, fine. But yeah, to your point, you're absolutely correct. Like, nobody came forward. And here we have a man with a platform who, if he found somebody who was one of those actors on that day, that man would have given his life to have that person on his show and talk and swear. I don't think there was one. I have not seen a story come across the desk that Alex Jones has a Sandy Hook crisis actor on the line right now. Hi, Joe from Scranton. Hello.
Yeah, and obviously now his credibility was always suspect, but now even if you were the staunchest Alex Jones fan, he has no credibility. Like, anything he says anymore, how could he still have a show at this point? How could anyone take him seriously?
He's involved in that January 6th stuff too, and it looks like he may play the role of the patsy.
Maybe that'd be interesting. I'd like to see him go down.
There was some money funneled from him to like set up some of the rally points for like the actual like the presentations. Yeah, it's a mess. But like there are people that want to ask him questions. Speaking of questions, the search for life continues, ladies and gentlemen. And not just intelligent life here on this planet, which the jury's out. We're just talking about life in general on Mars. Now, for the last 20 some odd years, maybe 25 years, we've been sending rovers and probes and satellites to Mars, and even back with I'm not going to forget the name of the original satellite that we sent. Was it Mercury that took pictures of Mars on its way to anyway,
not my cup of tea on that one.
Yeah, it wasn't Sputnik. I know that. I know Voyager went to the bigger planets. So yeah, forgive me for that. But we've been looking for not only like to prove that there was water on Mars. And I think at this point it's just acknowledged that at some point in Mars's history there was liquid water on the planet. It's retreated, it's evaporated, it's locked in ice underneath. It was there somehow, and then the atmosphere goes away for whatever reason. That stuff happens. So what they've done in all these cross modalities and very smart people getting together and looking at these images is they're finding some very similar structures on Mars that they do on Earth. Structures are very well studied. And this kind of touches on some of the Graham Hancock stuff that we've talked about erosion rates and what rocks look like when water goes away or comes fast or slow. So there's this area on Mars, the Kodiak Butte, or Butte, if you want.
Butte, I think it's Butte. Yeah.
Butte. I want to say butt. Haha.
It does look like a butt.
Yep. So there's these things called deltas, right? And we can go. The story is long, but it's apparently 3.5 billion years ago, Mars had a much more friendly environment, and that's when I think the water started to kind of disappear. So they found these very similar structures with basically layered sedimentation that they know exist here on Earth, and they finally found confirmation of it on Mars. And if you scroll down, there's a picture from Earth. It's from Sinai Peninsula in Egypt, and it's these like inclined forcets in the delta formation. Yeah, there you go. So that's on Earth, and that's the type of geology that they're going, well, we have a really decent grasp on how this happened here on Earth. So if it looks like that on Mars, we can only assume that that's where the water is, and it becomes a situation where the water slowly eroded, and those lines you see, those ridges, are like the water as it settled, as it evaporated, slowly go down. What they're really interested in is this is a great spot for microbial life. Microbes and other things like that don't like fast currents. They just obviously get swept away. But if water levels slowly recede, and you could just imagine how microscopic life would love that type of thing on a rock surface where it's slimy and there's some sun coming in and energy coming in. Like, so that's where they're going to send actually a couple different resources, and they're going to start drilling into that. And the craziest thing about this is that there's actually drawing below of how they're going to get those samples back to Earth, because we're very limited on the amount of instrumentation that we can put on these rovers and other vehicles on the planet. If we got those samples back to Earth, we have every imaginable piece of technology. Look at it. So what they're going to do is that they're going to have the current rover in this valley drill down, leave the samples in a jar or whatever, hermetically, I'm sure, there. They're going to send another rover to the planet, to the site where these containers are, where this other rover is going to launch a rocket into the atmosphere of Mars, which is going to meet up with a satellite, which is going to catch the rocket and bring the rocket with the containment, the container of all this sediment back to Earth to be studied.
Whoa. That's fucking crazy.
And they're going to do it by, I believe, 2025.
Science, yo.
Science. This is why you spend money in schools, and then you encourage people to dream big and think big. This is crazy shit. This is one shot. Like that tube's gonna. If you miss that tube, it's
right. It's just going off into space, into like nothingness. Yeah.
Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah. Good luck getting it back. Yeah.
That is some sci-fi shit right there, my friend. Absolutely. But we're doing it. That's the cool thing, that we're actually doing it. We're paying for it. That's what it needs. It needs money. It needs more smart people. Please.
Yep.
Speaking of money and smart people, we really would like to know what really goes on in a brain, right? It's a huge field of study. And the more technology kind of allows us to advance, so does our understanding of the brain. One of the most critical tools to understanding the structures of the brain, down to the neuron level, has been functional MRIs. We've actually talked about these on the show before a lot. They're about to unveil the world's most powerful MRI scanner. This might not sound like a big deal, but it is a huge big deal for neuroscientists that are just missing that much detail to explain a little bit more about what goes on in the structures of our brain. Not going to get way into this because there are some cool pictures of what a pumpkin looks like, and they use a pumpkin. It's about the relative size of our head, but because more importantly, it has structures inside, seeds, sinews, these web-like innards. If you've ever carved a pumpkin, you know what I'm talking about. What I wanted to point out is that the usual MRI machine at your local hospital that does a brain scan of you is usually what they call a 3 Tesla magnet. All right, that's the strength of the magnet. And trust, if you walked in there with if you got close enough to that magnet, it'll wipe your credit card, it'll wipe your phone. And it has been known if you get non-magnetic hospital equipment, a bed, oxygen tank near the magnet, it's going to cause a problem.
No shit.
Oh yes. Oh yes.
The magnet fucks with the oxygen tank?
If it's not made of the right stuff.
Wow, I never would have guessed that.
If it's not made of like what they would call like a non-ferrous material or metal, like aluminum, if they're just using some alloy that has iron in it, that thing's a fucking torpedo in the room. And I'm not kidding. Like it would kill you.
Wow.
And I'm just talking in a matter of like 50 feet, 60 feet. Wow. That's how strong that magnet is.
Huh.
This new magnet is 11.7 Tesla. And ladies and gentlemen, that is the equivalent of 230,000 times the strength of the Earth's magnetic field. Let me repeat that again. It's the equivalent of 230,000 times that of the magnetic field of this planet.
That seems unfathomable.
It's crazy strong. And in fact, it's crazy big. The entire magnet weighs 132 tons.
That's heavy.
They have to keep some of this equipment at the coil close to absolute zero. That's negative 271 degrees Celsius. So that's probably somewhere close to like 700, 800 degrees below zero Fahrenheit.
Damn. That's crazy.
And MRI, what it does is it polarizes your molecules basically and takes an image of what that looks like. So certain materials in your brain and in our body have different polarization rates, and they vibrate differently. And that's what this basically does, is it vibrates at a certain frequency towards these things, and they know what that thing is by its vibrational rate back, right? So science. So the stronger that they can make that vibration, or finer they can make that vibration, the more they can get, more detailed they can get in some of the structures of the brain, and kind of like know what lights up. If they can use like functional MRIs for this, they can see the areas that light up. We could already see the areas in your brain that light up when you receive pleasure, or when you're sad, or you're listening to music, or have to solve a puzzle. This is going to be huge for a whole variety of reasons.
Yeah, that's big. That's awesome.
With that, folks, I think we're ready for a break, and we have a special break. Actually, it's not even actually a break. I guess today's Columbus Day. I didn't know.
Today we'll learn.
Oops.
And not that we're gonna celebrate Columbus, because first of all, you showed up and you discovered a place that people were already at.
Right.
So first of all, you're right out of the gate.
So let me set this up for everybody. So there's a show that used to be on True TV for a while called Adam Ruins Everything. And there are 15 minutes. I started as a web show and it ended up getting picked up by True TV. But he basically takes different subjects and debunks them in a very funny way. And does it with different skits. And in this case, this one's animated. And he basically, so every episode is Adam ruins something. And this one is Adam ruins Christopher Columbus. And so this is about a 5-minute episode, 5-minute clip that encapsulates everything about why Columbus Day should never have existed from the very beginning. So without further ado, let's check this out.
About Christopher Columbus, the heroic explorer who discovered America and proved the earth was round.
Actually, Columbus was an incompetent buffoon who never even set foot in America.
Hush, hush. We all know believe that.
Yes, I actually believe this. I can sail from Europe to
So apparently they can't hear it, and I don't know
Yeah.
why. So
So when we came back is when I was able to hear it too.
So maybe it's because we were up now. So I guess let's try this. You guys can hear it. So it's when I take us off the screen, you can't hear it. Okay, now I know. Okay, so let's finish this out.
India in a matter of days.
That's extremely wrong.
It took years for Columbus to convince the king and queen his plan didn't suck. But competition in the spice trade was getting intense. So Ferdinand and Isabella were desperate to find a new way to get their fix.
The earth is tiny and also a pear. Give me money, please.
This man is an idiot.
I don't care.
Fine. Give this more on the bare minimum. 90 dumb men and 3 dumb sheeps. If you die, who cares?
Right. And that's when Columbus showed them all and became a hero.
But
You know what happens to mouthy students?
they get extra credit?
I turn them into iguanas. Say hi, Edward. Kill me. Now, children, that's the Nina, the Pinta, and the Santa Maria, the ships Columbus sailed to discover America.
I'm really sorry, Ms. Dazzle, but Columbus never set foot in America. Of all the modern-day countries Columbus made it to, like Cuba, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic, none of them were in the United States.
Okay, fine. Then Columbus discovered Haiti and the Dominican Republic.
Sure he did, if you don't count the 250,000 Taino people that live there already.
Occupied? Someone lives here?
Right, I know this part. He thought he made it to India.
Aha! This is India, and these people are Indians. I will be rich in spices and gold.
What a silly mistake.
Yes, if by silly you mean brutal, and by a mistake you mean one of several. The Taino treated Columbus and his crew with the utmost hospitality.
Hug?
We need reinforcements.
Columbus repaid their kindness by returning with 17 ships and 1,200 men so he could enslave the Taino and steal their gold. There was only one problem. They didn't have any.
You, gold, now.
Oh, I want to help, but what is gold?
This infuriated Columbus, and soon he and his crew began to slaughter them.
This is very inappropriate for me to see.
Columbus's regime was so senselessly brutal that by 1542, the Taino population on the island had fallen to 200.
I can't believe it. I had no clue that Columbus was this cruel. But after this, he must have gone on to do great things.
Nope, this was literally all he did. He didn't discover America, and he didn't prove the earth was round. He just bounced around the Caribbean, slaughtered a bunch of innocent people, and died thinking he had made it to India.
Hashtag no regrets.
Holy crow! Then why do we learn about this guy in school?
Oh, great question. For centuries, Columbus was a historical footnote. But that changed in 1828 when Washington Irving, the author of The Legend of Sleepy Hollow and other tall tales, wrote the first English-language biography of Columbus.
Columbus was a murderous failure? That ain't gonna sell copies. Let's say he was a brave genius who proved the earth was round and discovered America.
Seems believable.
And Irving's myth caught on big time when some new Americans were searching for a hero. Throughout the 19th century, a surge of Italians immigrated to America, where they were persecuted and treated like they didn't belong.
Ah, this is New York City. We hate pizza, and we'll always hate pizza.
To help prove Italians were a part of the American story, Italian Americans latched onto Irving's version of Columbus and promoted it like crazy.
Hey, we know a guy that knows a guy that discovered America, and he's Italian.
I guess Italians are great. This guy deserves his own holiday.
And that's the true story of how an incompetent and vicious nobody became the national hero we celebrate today.
So there you go. Don't celebrate Christopher Columbus. His entire life was as a murderous, rapist, colonizer, and a guy that wrote The Legend of Sleepy Hollow basically reinvented his life and convinced everyone in America to then suddenly treat him as some sort of hero. It's baffling. It is insane and also so American, that whole story.
It affirms the white supremacist history of the country, the way we kind of literally whitewash the blood on that guy's hands, and
Really?
all of those like settlers, because the Puritans weren't kind. Like, all of them, we just like, oh, you're great, you landed, you tried to save these heathens, and then they wouldn't convert, so you killed them. Cool.
And it also speaks to kind of tie it back to the first story of the headlines, education in this country. All of us sitting here were taught a very different version of Christopher Columbus. We were taught this mythicized, fantasized version of Christopher Columbus. So it begs you to question, what else were they bullshitting us about? Right? Because the winners write history. That's the fact. The winners write history. So what were we being taught? How many other bullshit things were we taught in school? Probably a lot.
A lot. And we were taught, we just have to get over the idea that we're somehow different from other people, right? The idea that because I was born in Saudi Arabia, I'm somehow different than somebody who was born in a corn farm in Iowa. Mm-hmm. Because we truly are like one race. And the reason I'm kind of segueing into this, because I came across a really, really great piece that kind of described like the origins of the human race. And there may have been at one point on this earth as many as 9 different species of what we would consider human looking people, or at least, well, what the people,
right? Like humanoid looking, standing up on 2 feet, human features, that sort of thing, right?
So not only human features, so they classify like size of the brain, they classify tool use. And so I'm going to lose my spot on here. So there are, here it is. It's here that our evolution. So there's at one point our brains just got bigger. Here's the article. Big brains. At this point, Homo erectus originated. This is about 2 million years ago. This is when human evolution kind of accelerated. 2 million years ago, Homo erectus appeared. Erectus was taller, more like us in stature, and had large brains, several times bigger than a chimp's brains, and up to 2/3 the size of ours. They made sophisticated tools, such as hand axes. They have a picture of the hand axes that were made. This was a major technological advance. Hand axes needed skill and planning to create, and you probably need to be taught how to make one. It may have also been what they call a meta tool that's used to fashion other tools, such as spears and digging sticks. This is 2 million years ago. Think about how many layers of our history that we know that people have used, the axes, just the idea of an axe, the shape of an axe, that what an axe does. It's literally traveled with us since the beginning.
Right.
So unlike us, Homo erectus had small teeth, and that suggests a shift from plant-based diets to eating more meat, and that's probably for hunting. And that's where the theory of acceleration begins, that we started to eat meat, and that extra protein grew our brain.
Interesting.
And the big brain erectus soon gave rise to an even larger brain species. This highly intelligent hominin, that's what we kind of are, or hominin, spread through Africa and Eurasia, evolving into Neanderthals, Denisovians, Homo rhodesians, and the archaic Homo sapiens. Technology became far more advanced. Stone-tipped spears and fire-making appeared. Objects with no clear functionality, such as jewelry and art, showed up over the last 500,000 years. Some of these species are startlingly like us in their skeletons and in their DNA. Homo neanderthals, the Neanderthals, had brains approaching our size, evolved even larger brains over time until the last Neanderthal had cranial capacities comparable to modern humans.
Those are also the species that they believe, if I'm remembering correctly, that they what's the right word for it? But they intermingled with Homo erectus that we are, right? Like, so some of us are like descendants of this weird like hybrid.
You're yes, and actually, it's the next bullet that we're going to get to. But I want to talk about the Neanderthals because they were that last like level of evolution before Homo sapiens appeared, right?
Gotcha.
So the Neanderthal, they had uniquely human behavior, suggesting a mind. They thought of themselves, they spoke of themselves as like human. They were skilled, versatile hunters, exploiting everything from rabbits to rhinoceroses to woolly mammoths. They made sophisticated tools such as throwing spears tipped with stone points. They fashioned jewelry from shells, animal teeth, and eagle talons, made cave art. That's a big deal. They had imagination. They saw something that wasn't there and then put it there for whatever reason. And another thing that makes them very much like us is that they buried their dead and they also mourned their dead. That's also a big deal because even in the animal kingdom, you just see them kind of like, well, that's where Hank died. That's where his body's going to be. But they had a ceremony where they dug a hole, and that takes time, that takes effort, that takes care.
Right. Yeah, you definitely, if you're going to go through all that, there's an emotional attachment that you have to that person, surely.
So then the article goes on to, and you were already hitting on this, that there was the possibility that through all of this intermingling of species, that Homo sapiens came to be. And then that Neanderthals and Denisovians and other hominins may have also mated with us. And it's a wonderful article because it goes on to describe why we, the Homo sapiens, made it out and survived. This goes into everything from our ability to domesticate dogs to our ability to play sports and take care of our young, live as a community. But it also hints that since we, and check this out, tell me if you've heard this one before, we thought we were the dominant species and may have wiped out those species that we thought were lesser than us.
Sure. And that does sound like something our species would do.
Just like an axe, right?
Right. You know, it's
just like an axe.
It's like colonizers, right? Like we have it in us to wipe out people that we view as lesser than us. The Europeans and the Spaniards, they viewed the natives as lesser, so they just killed them all and took their land. Right. So that it is 100% in us. We've seen it play out. That we would have, if we could find a way to dominate, if we felt that we were the dominant species, that we would just wipe out the ones that we felt were inferior.
The article does a good job of explaining it's not just brain size, right? But a couple of cool things here. Bottlenose dolphins have a somewhat larger brain than we do. So, I mean, do we fully understand how? No. Albert Einstein had a relatively small brain, smaller than the average Neanderthal.
Interesting.
Which, again, brain size doesn't necessarily mean, but it's that capacity. It's that growth of neurons, probably. The connections in the brain are far more important than like size and space. I guess,
right, like exactly. The mass may have been less, but a person like Einstein was likely using more of his brain because it was functioning on a higher level than maybe a normal person would. So even though it was smaller, it's still functioning at a higher level.
Now there was a Graham Hancock moment here where I did see something. It might have been an adjoining article that I think I sent you to, but I didn't for some reason call up here. There was apparently some mass extinction. And it's here it is. Check this out, man. This was like an incidental find, just like clicking on a link provided in the article. But this is where we're talking about the different types of creatures that look like us, humans, not necessarily Homo sapiens, but humans, people that we would recognize, not as like an ape or a chimp, but like, okay, you're human in some capacity,
right?
Several short, small brain species survived alongside the four that we mentioned: the Denisovians, the Neanderthals, Homo erectus, and Homo rhodesians. These were the Homo naledi in South Africa, the Homo eozoneus in the Philippines, Homo floresiensis, the hobbits in Indonesia, and the mysterious red deer cave people in China. By 10,000 years ago, they were all gone. The disappearance of these other species resembles a mass extinction, but there's no obvious environmental catastrophe. There's no obvious volcanic eruptions, climate change, asteroid impact driving it. Indeed, the extinction's timing suggests they were caused by the spread of a new species evolving 260,000 to 350,000 years ago in South Africa, Homo sapiens. So now we're getting a kind of a cross-pollination here of these two theories of what happened to these prior versions of us. Different models, like a prior version of our Cylon model. Did we kill them? Did we just that'd be hard because
listen, how many we killed so many buffalo that they almost went extinct. And if you've ever seen a fucking buffalo like up close,
I have.
To imagine that human beings killed them at such a rate that they almost went extinct, and how many other things that we have brought to the brink of extinction through hunting, it certainly stands to reason that the early, more less sophisticated versions of us would have seen these other species as threats. And as Ryan Hansen points out, we kill everything. That's what we do. Homo sapiens kill everything around them that they see as a threat to their dominance in the food chain. It's bred into us. It's a part of our DNA.
We would have seen them as threats to supplies, competition. Not exactly like existential threats, but you were going to compete with resources. And if if Homo sapiens were more advanced, we had a higher function of language and communication, and then that could branch out to architecture and certainly making of weapons and stuff, then we would have been technologically superior to whatever was out there. But I really found that 10,000 years ago comment to be very, very interesting. especially because when a lot of these areas that they're talking about, South Africa, the Philippines, would have been inundated. There wouldn't be a Philippines if we're talking about the flood of mythology happened. It would just be underwater. Indonesia, a lot of that would be underwater right now during that time period of the catastrophic flood. So again, I thought a very interesting piece. Wanted to bring to everybody's attention there because I think, like, in light of Columbus Day, where we celebrate a man that just butchered and slaughtered people just based on differences, that it might have been a nice thing to kind of remind ourselves that we've been doing this for a long time, just like we've been building axes for a long time. And maybe it's impossible to change this behavior. Just that
you have to wonder, though, right? Like, I believe that there were species on this planet that were more advanced than we were, right? Like, I believe that the pyramids were made by an advanced civilization. I think the way that they moved those giant rocks and put them into precise places with such a precision that we aren't even capable of today, I have to believe that there was a species that had some sort of advanced technology. And if I believe that, and I also believe that it's possible that Homo sapiens either ran them out of town or killed them all, maybe they weren't as advanced, or maybe it was a different kind of advance, right? They maybe weren't a warlike civilization where they did things by force, where they had weapons, and they were more intellectual.
Maybe they weren't worried about it because they thought, like, well, we're all the way over here. Like, we've been living with flying cars and, super cool, like, technology for generations. We don't fight. We don't have weapons. That'd be silly.
we don't know. We don't know, because keep in mind, guys, if a catastrophic event happened today, 1,000,000 years from now, there would be no remnants of buildings, of cars, of civilization, except for giant monuments like Mount Rushmore, right? Like, society as we know it, all these tall buildings, go to Chicago or Dallas or New York and look at all those tall skyscrapers and understand that if a catastrophic event were to happen and a giant ice sheet, for instance, were to fall on top of the entire planet, eventually all buildings, everything, this mouse, our phone, these microphones, all of it would eventually disintegrate to the point where we wouldn't know. In 1,000,000 years from now, if another civilization came to this planet and would try to understand that we ever existed, there wouldn't be any record of our existence. So it seems to me that it's entirely possible that there were civilizations that this giant flood that it seems pretty apparent happened for sure on this planet. Did it wipe out to the point where we just don't know that shit existed? Because it's just
got reset.
It was literally disintegrated.
Yeah, we got reset. We got reset as a species, and it probably wiped out
the megafauna. We talked about it 1,000,000 times now, but keep in mind, guys, the animals themselves were like 40 times bigger than they are currently as we now know them, right? And so, like, what was going on this planet 10,000 years ago? Man, how fascinating would it be if you had a time machine to go back 10,000 years ago and just go, what the fuck is going on around here?
Well, speaking of time machines and going back in time, in the upcoming segment, we're going to talk about a bunch of people that wish they could go back in time and change one moment of their lives. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the lightning round, where 3 headlines enter, 1 headline leaves. You, the listening audience, the people, will vote on which headline survives the difficult task of the Thunderdome. So, ladies and gentlemen, lightning bolts out. Here we go. Headline number 1. New York man evaded arrest, finally leaves tree after 48 hours.
All right, you got my attention.
And I've at the request of some of the Topic Thunder fans out there, I've started to recycle some of the stories and from prior
Ooh, I like that. That maybe
lightning rounds.
that came just short of winning. I like that.
I like that too. So this is one of them. Court orders parents to pay their son $30,000 for the value of his porn collection that they destroyed.
That's a good one. That's a really good one.
And headline number 3, Ohio woman arrested for beating another person with a 10-pound beef log.
Oh, this is tough.
Ladies and gentlemen, your headlines one more time. Think about it. Find a Zen place.
Man, I don't know what to choose yet.
And decide between one of these 3. We're looking for you, Mama Jordan. We're looking for you. Headline number 1, NYC man evaded arrest and finally left the tree he was hiding in after 48 hours.
Oh, man.
Headline number 2, a court ordered parents to pay their son $30,000 for the value of the porn collection that they destroyed. That one's just so delicious.
Oh, man.
There's a lot to that, right? There's a lot going on in that story.
And I can't, now that I'm hearing it back, like, what beat that? Like, it must have been really impressive.
Wait, who has $30,000 worth of porn these
Porn,
days?
like, Jesus, it's free on the internet.
Yeah, like how many VHS things do you own?
Right? Like, it's out. Anything he has is outdated, like DVDs or whatever. Like, just go to Pornhub, brah. It's all free right there.
That's what we're all doing. Everybody. Anyway, headline number 3, Ohio woman arrested for beating another person with a 10-pound beef log.
Beef log is an early leader here, as both Courtney and Billy Whack have gone with the beef log.
Right, Ryan Hansen's in on the beef log.
I don't know if that's a vote for it or if he's just making a comment about it. Aunt Chris is going with the porn collection, as so is Gigi. Let's see. So there's actually 2 and 2.
It's a Betamax reference in the chat room.
Ryan Hansen, if you're listening, I need an official vote. I don't know exactly what you're voting for.
Betamax reference in the chat room.
Biz is going with the beef log. Mama Jordan is going with the beef log story as well. It looks like the beef log is running with, dude, the $30,000 porn collection loses again.
Wow.
It needs to come back again now. It's like now it's the redemption story. Like it's eventually going to win.
It's like an episode. This is what happens on like The Bachelor and a Bachelorette, right? They recycle people that are like completely like heartbroken and like lost at the last minute. Like, well, we're gonna give Julius another shot at this one.
By the way, shout out to Chuck Davis making a vote for the first time, tuning in. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you.
Right on, Chuck. We unfortunately are a democracy here, so we are gonna go with headline number 3, the 10-pound beef log. This is Dateline May 14th of this year. So this one flew under the radar as well. And this is from the New York Daily News. They had a real beef. An Ohio woman has been arrested after using a 10-pound beef log to assault another woman with a protective order against her. Manica Garner, 25. Has been charged with assault and violation of a temporary protection order after beating Precious Jackson, 36, with pre-packaged meat, according to the South Euclid Police Department's incident report obtained by the Smoking Gun on Thursday. The incident occurred Tuesday in the potato chip aisle of a Walmart in South Euclid, about 15 miles east of Cleveland. Jackson, according to the document, told authorities that she and her daughter, who was 7, were assaulted by Garner. Garner told authorities she thought the protection order was no longer in effect. According to the document, which noted that she had been arrested for violating the order and hitting Garner a couple of times in the face with a 10-pound beef log of prepackaged ground beef.
In the face with a 10-pound beef log. Amazing.
The beef was listed as a blunt object in the weapons used section of the document. Authorities say that Garner, who was with her 5-year-old child, threatened to beat up Jackson and the victim's daughter upon running into her at the store. You're with your 5-year-old and you threaten another person and their 7-year-old with violence in the potato chip aisle. Garner, who police say has a history of violent behavior, removed Jackson's mask to spit on her, and when she missed, grabbed the meat from Jackson's cart. The outlet notes. It wasn't even, they grabbed it from your own cart. It's your beef. It's your
You wanted to
10-pound
buy a beef log. You were walking through the store and you're like, ooh, a 10-pound beef log. That sounds great. I'll buy that. Let me put that in my cart. Only to find out like 10 minutes later you were getting whooped in the face with it.
When reached for comment, the South Euclid Police Department declined requests.
Yeah, I bet they fucking did. Oh, man.
You can't have any more fun with beef than that, ladies and gentlemen.
Before we go, Nick sent me a picture of the President Pub cheese so that we could all see it. So that's what you're looking for. It is a cheese spread. So we are definitely going to start organizing the cheese tournament. We are going to find out what is the best cheese according to the Topic Thunder community.
We can do cheese and sandwiches, and this might get nuts.
What are we going to do
folks.
sandwiches? We said cheese or sandwiches.
I think we do both, but let's leave it up for debate. We'll keep tossing it around here. Maybe sandwiches, maybe cheese. I don't know. That's again
or both. Fuck it.
To bring it back to the beginning, that's the mystery of Topic Thunder, which you've been listening to, ladies and gentlemen, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitch. Check us out on Instagram. It's Topic Thunder Podcast at the IG. And tell your friends if you like what you heard. If you didn't, please just keep your mouth shut.